One, which suggests that we have the ability to participate in board meetings via phone, video conferencing, and or hybrids, in-person remote attendance. We are all remote today, except maybe some staff members, but we still continue to welcome any public comments and welcome public participation in our meeting. Shannon, could you tell folks how they can speak to us and communicate with us and participate in our meeting?
Yes, happy to do that. Members of the public wishing to make a public comment can do so 3 ways. 1 would be live via this Zoom meeting. 2, by submitting an email to me at srice@evparks.org, or by leaving a voicemail at 510-544-2400. More information about all of this is located on our agenda, which is at the Park District's website, evparks.org. And if there are no questions about the meeting procedures, I'd like to begin the meeting with taking roll. Okay, Director and Chair Waspy.
Here.
Director Wieskamp.
Here.
And Director Eccles.
Here.
Thank you. And
all right, and Deborah, would you like to introduce some key staff members?
Yes, Director Waspy. I'm Deborah Ocker, the AGM of Finance and Management Services. We have some finance staff members here with us. Deborah Spalding, our Assistant Finance Officer, Christina Crosby, our Budget Manager, Anna Huang, Assistant Finance Officer. Ren Bates is presenting today, Acting Chief of Design and Construction. We also have David Sumner, Kim Belinget, and Tao Von Supan and some other finance members. We have other executive team members, Jim O'Connor, our Deputy General Manager, Allison Cook, AGM of HR, Steve Castile, Acting AGM of Operations, Susan Shu, AGM of Public Affairs, Ann Kassabaum, Regional Park Foundation, Lisa Gorgian, Acting AGM of ASD. You get a good turnout when you're talking about the budget. So thank you for letting me introduce everyone.
Great, thank you, and welcome to the folks that are here on screen also. So our first item today is the preliminary general fund budget and project budget overview. Christina, are you going to handle that?
Deborah, did you want to do an introduction, or I can?
I will be happy to do an introduction. We are today presenting to you just a preview. This is an information only item to give you a little preview of what we have in our general fund. Also, we have been working really hard on prioritizing capital projects and maybe doing things a little bit differently, implementing best practices. So today we're also going to give you a preview of some of the capital projects that we're recommending for appropriation in the 2023 budget. So Christine is going to go ahead and walk us through the presentation, and we also have Lisa Gorgian helping us present at the end, and we will answer any questions you have along the way. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I will share my screen and maybe give me a little nod or something if you can see it. We're good? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Christina Crosby, Budget Manager. I'm going to go over item number 1 on the agenda today, the preliminary 2023 general fund budget. And this year, for the first time, as Deborah mentioned, we're including a project preview. Normally, we only have the general fund summary for you, but with a strong focus on capital projects in the board study sessions and the adoption of the capital project prioritization policy, we have also prepared a list of the projects we're proposing moving forward, and we will have Acting AGM of Acquisition, Stewardship, and Development, Lisa Gorgian, here to highlight some of those as well.
To start, we have the overview of the budget process. I want to highlight the continuous cycle of budget.
I can't hear her.
Oh. Is that better?
It's a little better, but it's still difficult.
No, we somehow lost you a little bit.
Huh.
There,
and it's money.
You're back. Now you're back.
I'm back?
Yes, you're
Hey.
back. Okay.
Okay, let
Go
me know
ahead.
if it fades again. I should be good.
Yes.
The district and the budget team are constantly reviewing and recommending implementation of best practices throughout the year.
We start the implementation of the annual budget in July with the creation of.
Lost her again.
Everything is the same.
I know you're not changing anything, huh? Let's see. Jim, you were going to raise your hand. Try your plugs on your computer. And
Christina,
go
there's
ahead and
also a
talk to her.
there's a setting in Zoom that automatically adjusts for background noise. I don't know if you have that on or not. You might want to make sure that's off.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, because we can hear you fine now. For some reason, it's kind of,
Okay, it is on, let me,
I'm turning off the automatically adjust my background noise.
And then make sure the microphone volume is up.
okay.
Hi.
that didn't work at all.
No, it's not working.
I'll go ahead and
Turn it down a little bit.
maybe, yeah, maybe undo what you did. Let's see.
Yeah.
Huh. Let's see. Shannon, do you have a headset, an extra headset? Let's
This is so strange. I talk in here all day long, all the time.
You're perfect now.
You're perfect now. So let's go ahead and try it one more time and see if we'll let you know if it fades out.
Okay, maybe the way I sit is, I don't know. We'll try. Okay, so I do want to highlight the continuous cycle of budget development. The district and the budget team are constantly reviewing and recommending implementation of best practices throughout the year. We start the implementation of the annual budget in July with the creation of the position budget. In August, there were board study sessions to help us hone in on the board member interest, and finance team starts developing the preliminary 2023 budget. We also hold trainings for staff through budget workshops and drop-in office hours in August.
In September and October, the budget request.
She's gone again. Christina, you must be so frustrated.
I am prepared.
And I have all these slides to share.
Yeah.
Somehow it's fading in and out, but I think we can hear you now.
Okay.
Thumbs up.
I just can't get through this slide. Maybe it's this slide. Okay. So in September and October, the requests are prioritized, and then we begin integrating them, the decisions into the budget. And now we are giving the Finance Committee the first look at the general fund. And then we will have another meeting in November to go over it more in depth with more detail. And then finally, it will be taken to the full board for public meetings and adoption in December.
Okay. Our budget balancing principles have remained constant, and we are still holding true to those. To create a financially stable organization, making near-term decisions in the context of long-term fiscal planning and long-term goals, ensuring we address legal and regulatory mandates, continue to leverage resources for capital projects and operations, pursue restoration and preservation of natural and cultural resources while responding to changing climate, maintain parks and facilities in an environmentally sustainable manner, and protect and invest in our employees' well-being, professional development, and future retirement. These are consistent year over year, but we are continuing to pursue and implement best practices. I was muted. All right, am I still good?
Mhm.
So some of the best practices that we have implemented this year involve creation of a true internal service fund for major equipment replacement and fleet services. This shift will make all related expenses for fleet and equipment more transparent, consistent, and create a constant place for large capitalization for large capitalizable equipment to be recorded. We also have worked to improve projections in our position budget that have allowed for more precise expense projections related to employee benefit costs. So moving into some budget highlights, the first area of focus is parkland expansions that are anticipated in 2023. We have the Bay Area Ridge Trail from Gelderman to Vallejo Mills Park to improve existing fire road and construct 3.6 miles of new multi-use trail and open up the Gelderman Land Bank property and Bay Ridge Trail. Patterson property at Coyote Hills, open land dedication area to public access, staging area, habitat north of Patterson Ranch Road, trails and entry location. San Francisco Bay Trail sections. The Doolittle project will include construction of a half-mile of new trail along San Leandro Bay, as well as upgrades to a quarter-mile of existing trail. And at Point Melotti, the goal is to operate and maintain 2.5 miles of paved bay trail from Stenmark Drive to the northern boundary of City of Richmond's property. Sibley McCosker Creek Restoration Phase 1 will be to operate and maintain 3,000 linear foot creek restoration at McCosker. Sycamore Valley Vaggie Preserve, open 300 acres with public access trail and a conservation easement adjacent to the northern Sycamore Valley. Okay. Moving on to wildfire mitigation, which remains a high priority for the Park District, with 1.3 million for fuels management operations and matching funds for grants. Utilizing existing project funding to purchase equipment to improve functionality of public safety air support unit to fight wildfires. And staffing changes to expand leadership capacity of existing fuels crews with a new fire lieutenant. For climate stewardship, we are proposing climate smart stewardship. We're proposing a staff increase to the wildland vegetation unit, a project coordinator to improve long-term maintenance of conservation lands, 600,000 to improve infrastructure for grazed parklands, particularly water infrastructure and fencing, and funding for an aquatic weed harvester to improve water management at lakes and swimming areas. In the area of workforce development and support, there is the creation of a new Office of Equity within the General Manager's Office. This includes an equity officer and a management analyst. Funding to support increased stability and speed of information services network. Funding to increase software licenses in order to improve staff work efficiency. Staffing increases for the Human Resources Division to support employee and labor relations, and funding for an employee recognition program. So improving efficiencies in parkland operations. We're recommending implementing a geographically based organizational structure for park operations. This is a change from the current organizational alignment by park types, and it includes a unit manager, an admin specialist, and a park ranger. Increased staffing to improve on-the-ground management, time and interaction between park supervisors and unit managers, and increased mobility of park staff by adding to the green fleet with 10 electric UTVs and green climber slope mowers to reduce brush and weed abatement. And on improving facilities maintenance, investment in major maintenance programs to improve throughput on park maintenance, creation of a new major maintenance work unit and operations mass department to oversee the ADA program and the new construction management and maintenance system. This includes the addition of 1 maintenance supervisor and 2 project managers. Increased funding to the ASD design and construction unit to improve project throughput.
And then Christina, maybe before you go into the numbers, I think we're going to try to see if you have a headset really quickly. I think someone was bringing you a headset maybe, and we'll just let you try that out. But as you can see, as we're putting forward, these are highlights to many of the new projects put forward in this budget. So as you know, when we put our budget together, we start with our current level of service, and then we see if there are areas where we'd like to enhance our level of service, make improvements, start new initiatives. And so Christina just walked you through many of those details that are part of this budget. You want to do a little sound check and see if this will work?
I'm trying to see which one to choose here.
Well, we can hear you perfectly now. It's so strange. I apologize, everyone, all the directors and the members of the public. Christina's in her office using her computer and nothing's changing, but the sound's going back and forth.
So weird. I was assuming everything was going okay too, so I'm sorry.
I think go ahead and go forward right now. You do sound okay, so we'll just keep you going the way you are. Thank you.
Okay. Oops. Let's see, where was I?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're good.
So we're moving on to the general fund revenue. The largest portion of our general fund revenue is directly from property tax. For 2023, 83% of the general fund projected revenue is coming from property tax. And new this year, we are recommending the use of fund balance at 10%. This fund balance is made up of previous year's surpluses and project closure funds that are being returned to source. In prior years, these surpluses would be appropriated during the mid-year process, but in an effort to incorporate most appropriations into the annual budget cycle, you're seeing a shift here to using this fund balance during the annual process. So this is one of the changes that we're seeing this year. So on that previous slide, we looked at the percentages of revenue sources holistically. And on this slide, you can see the changes between the different types from last year. I will highlight some of these changes on the next slide, but just, to quickly point out how this works. We've got the 2022 adopted budget. This was last year. We didn't use any fund balance last year. And this year you can see that we're using fund balance. So you're seeing the increase here of 100%. Okay. Some of the other preliminary revenue highlights, we've got $13 million increase in property tax based on known increases in property tax rolls from both Alameda and Contra Costa County and Beacon economic projections for the second half of the year. Okay, is my sound still good? Okay. $450,000 increase in fees and charges. This is mainly from Dumbarton Quarry Campground being open all year round. And then interest earnings is not budgeted for 2023 as this has been determined to be extremely variable source of revenue. We have $2 million from the pension trust plan drawdown, and this is shown as miscellaneous revenue, and a $100,000 increase in support from Regional Parks Foundation for general operations and programming. Okay, so now focusing a bit on the overall expenditures, we see 57% in personnel cost and 16% on supplies and services. We have 12% on intra-district charges, and that you're seeing is the impact here of the implementation of the internal service fund for the fleet and equipment that we spoke of earlier. To create the true internal service fund and capture all fleet related expenses and capitalizable purchases in one fund, we have shifted those expenses out of general fund, and the costs are then charged back to the allocated divisions via this intra-district charges. So that's why you're seeing a higher increase here for intra-district charges at 56.7%. So if we look at these changes year over year, which I was just showing here, you'll see some changes in decreases in supplies and capital outlay. These are also the result of the shift to the internal service fund model. The large increases in transfers out is the large investment we are recommending putting forth in our projects and programs budgets. So here's our transfers out. You'll see there's an increase. So just highlighting what the differences are from last year to this year for expenses. Some other preliminary expenditures to highlight. The general fund appears to have a relatively small increase in personnel cost over last year of 0.5%. And this is due to a number of factors. Primarily, the changes in the budgeting practices for the fleet and equipment now being an internal service fund was a $4 million shift personnel cost and included 22 positions. We also decreased cost in the other post-employment benefit projections due to the updated funded status. And there were changes to the CalPERS unfunded liability calculations. And we also included a 4% vacancy rate as we started last year, which is a best practice to compensate for salary savings due to attrition, acting assignments, and leave of absence.
There was a 10% decrease in supplies, again, due to that shift in internal service fund, an 18.6% increase in services, 64.2% decrease in capital outlay. And again,
and that's because we moved that all to the other fund, so it's not in general fund anymore. And then a 56.7% increase in intra-district charges, and it includes $10 million increase for equipment and fleet internal service fund, and a $500,000 increase for major infrastructure renovation and replacement fund, MER, as recommended by the district policy.
Christina, I'll just interrupt you for 1 minute. So this is a lot of information, right? But we always give the finance committee all the details. So you're seeing here that we are implementing these best practices. We're just like, you know, each year we're going to do some continuous improvement on the way we're designing our budget to also reflect that we are a large agency, right? To just like put things in place like this idea of having our fleet be an internal service fund, whereas before everything just was kind of buried in the general fund. So we're sharing all those details with you. But again, those are really just ways of managing these different budgets. It's not really making a big change in the total dollars. It's just moving it from one place to another. Another thing I don't know if we have on here, maybe it's on the next slide, is talking about the operations division. Is that on the next slide, Christina? Or
No.
we didn't put that in there. So, you know, the operations division, they are talking about changing the way they organize their work groups from being by type, lakes, recreation, to geographic. I think we wrote about that in the staff report, and adding an additional unit just to show that, you know, we are a growing agency. We have much more going on in all of our parks. So again, those are some things that adding a new unit is a big budget change, but just reconfiguring the way the work groups are set up is internal, and it changes our behind the scene budget things to make us more efficient, but the total dollars don't necessarily change. So we have lots of little things like that that we're doing in our budget process that when you look at the big picture, it doesn't show much change, but we just want to let you know that we're constantly just trying to improve the way we're managing our budgets. So go ahead, Christina. Thank you.
Okay. So, okay, overall, we touched on some of the positions that we are proposing for 2023, but in total, we are recommending just over 40 FTEs. This includes the reorganizations that Deborah just mentioned, one of them that we discussed, and then conversions to 9-month to year-round positions, the Office of Equity, and continued investment in our administrative departments, such as HR, finance, and information technology. And then this slide here is the last one before I'm going to turn over the discussion to Lisa. And it's really the high-level picture of our general fund summary. It's a succinct representation illustrating our balanced budget. So you can see that we are balanced. We're doing as we promised. And it kind of illustrates all those changes that we were talking about on all the previous slides. And that brings us to the next section of our presentation, which is highlights of the 2023 proposed budget. And I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Gorgon to go over some of those projects.
Okay, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me? Now
Yes.
I'm nervous about the
Yes.
sound. So good afternoon. My name's Lisa Gorgon. I'm the acting chief of AGM of Acquisition, Stewardship and Development, and really pleased to be able to go over this information with you this afternoon. As Christina and Deb mentioned, this year, with the adoption by the board of the capital prioritization policy, the teams were able to evaluate all of the projects that you'll see forthcoming in the project portion of the budget, and assign a matrix score. So that's something that will be forthcoming, and we were really excited to have that tool this year. And then in addition, in accordance with the general manager's guidance and sort of in alignment with what Christina and Deborah have been sharing, the teams looked at the upcoming projects or projects that we were forecasted to work on in 2023 that needed and where we knew we would need to have additional funds in those projects. So we identified what the funding would be based on the associated work that was anticipated to happen. And we put in requests to transfer that money over into the individual projects as part of this annual budget process. So previously, we kind of had a pay as you go where we would come and kind of put another coin in the meter, spend down whatever we had, come back with a new contract, put another coin in the meter. And so this is a way that we are still coming to the board for authorization of service contracts, but the change is that the funding will already have been authorized by the board and be in the project. So I just wanted to, because I think as Deborah and Christina have mentioned, that is something new. So let's see, I think Christina, maybe so we're going to take a little tour around the district and just do a couple highlights of some of the projects and sort of what kind of funding we're anticipating. And this is also identified in the packet, I believe. So this is a photo. This is at Contra Loma. This is a significant public access project. And so we are requesting a budget of 1.2 million to be moved into this project. You may recall back in 2020 and 21, we did do some interim repairs, and we're just finding that more work is needed for a longer term solution. And that will include removing the sand and bringing on aquatic engineering and design services. And so this funding request is for those services. So you'll see a board action to authorize those contracted services probably at the beginning of next year, maybe this year. Let's see. Hayward Marsh is the next one. So this is restoration and public access, so kind of both. And the budget request for this is about $746,000. So this is a project that the board approved a concept plan for back in April. And since then, we've been evaluating the environmental effects of the project under CEQA. And when we're anticipating to wrap that up. And so in 2023, we will want to continue the work to support the design, engineering, and permit and associated development fees. So again, we anticipated what those fees would be, and that's reflected in this budget request. So the next one is at Keller Beach. The board visited this project earlier this spring. It was kind of a foggy day, and this is another really important public access where we're really maintaining what we have. So it's not new access, but we're renovating it. And the staff has developed in-house the concept plans. And now as we move forward in the next year, we're looking to request $500,000 to prepare for contracted services to prepare construction and permit documents for this. Okay, then the next, Oyster Bay. So this is such a lovely photo of it, and I don't think you can see the disc golf, but we were really pleased to have that open last year, and it's very popular. But work continues at Oyster Bay. So again, this is new public access from a, well, let me back up. This is currently, the public access is that you park on the road, and so on Neptune, and so the funds for this is for the construction of, staff has been working on the design and engineering drawings and documentation for a new entry road into Oyster Bay off of Neptune Drive, and then for parking and restroom and additional picnic area. So it's building on the existing public access that's there, and I think making it more welcoming. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this is for the San Francisco Bay Trail. We have a little parcel that we call the Crowley parcel, and it's to develop a gap in the Bay Trail. And so this is a concept plan that was brought to the board back in 2019. And since then, we've been advancing those concept into schematic plans. And so the district is, we're pleased to be moving ahead with it. And as part of this budget request, we're requesting $400,000 for contracted services to prepare the construction and permit documents. And then we're on the home stretch. This is Thurgood Marshall. So again, this is similar to Crowley in that we've developed in-house. We're working with in-house staff who are developing the concept plan. So getting us to about 30% design, and then we're requesting $400,000 to then advance those drawings when we're ready in 2023 to hire construction documentation and permits. So we're very excited. This is a new public access. So as you all know, there's no public access to this site right now. And so this is completely new. So we're really excited. And this is at Tilden, the Environmental Education Center. This is a project that we've reviewed with the board. I think we had a site visit back in 2019, where this building is at the end of its life. We really need to not only renovate, but rebuild. And so we're asking as part of this budget process to transfer over about little under 1.2 million for architectural services. And so we're excited in that we are working. We had a request for proposals earlier this month or last month, and we're going to be interviewing architects and then bringing a request for contracted services in early 2023 for that work. And the last one is at Sunol. And so this is one similar with where we're maintaining our infrastructure, where we're restoring it. And so this is, we're requesting $150,000 for public access to renovate the existing restroom and campground and picnic up at the high camp at Sunol. So this would be the associated professional or contracted services with preparation of construction and permitting documentation. So as you see, these are asks, just as I wrap it up, are mostly for contracted services. We are not asking for the full amounts to build these. We don't have enough information yet. Every time we move through a different phase of planning and development, we continue to refine our costs. And so just wanted to mention that as we, next year as we do this, that might be something that we would look at, or we'll look to more guidance on how we would want to move forward with sort of this process of transferring funds into a project as part of the annual process. I'll turn it back to Christina.
Thanks, Lisa. Okay, hopefully we can wrap this up and you guys can hear me at the end here. So just to kind of tag on to what Lisa was talking about, we do have some continued contributions.
Again, I'm having trouble hearing. Oh, it's contagious, Christina. You're not alone.
I know. What is it?
They're out to sabotage us.
I can go ahead and take the next two
Yeah.
slides, Christina, no
Okay.
problem.
Sorry.
So, no, this is great. So in addition to the capital projects that Lisa spoke of, we also have kind of our district-wide initiatives, things that we are always funding for long-term, where we don't know exactly where the money is going to go, but we know we have long-term needs. So natural infrastructure is an area that we've been exploring over the last couple of years. You can recall we have our major maintenance fund, which now we have a funding policy, and it really has provided a strategy for our facilities. Now, natural infrastructure are, ponds and lakes and streams and culverts and things that have not been included in that hard infrastructure inventory that we've done. So we want to start creating an inventory for that. Our stewardship grazing team has been working very hard on inventorying our ponds. They came to the board and talked to you about that. They've been doing a lot of work in there. We do have some information about our lakes and our bodies of water. So this is just putting funding towards those types of initiatives that we know that we have out there. Again, we've talked about fuels management and wildfire prevention. So we have a strategy of increasing our general fund contribution to this program by $100,000 every year, with $1.3 million going into this program this year. We continue to seek grants. As you know, we did get we're still in the process of getting authorization for $10 million from the state of California to really deal with this tree mortality issue that is real and related to climate change in our regional parks. And then we also have continuous other FEMA grants that we're drawing down on in this program. So lots of work. We're doing $3 to $4 million over the last couple of years, and we do expect that to ramp up as we move forward. Also, we created a new category of future park openings, and we do see that we have land bank land that, we will be opening in the future. So starting to put funds aside to make sure that we can provide for that when we're ready and have the permits. And $500,000 for land acquisition, another $500,000 towards our aquatic facility improvements, which is in addition to the work that we're currently doing at Roberts Pool, what we talked about at Contra Loma, things like that. And then trails is a big conversation. I think the PAC just did a great workshop on Monday. And so putting funding aside for future trail planning, in addition to specific projects that are out there. So those are some of the big initiatives. Next slide. And then this is our last slide, I believe, today, just walking you through the timeline again as we get close to the end of the year. We bring all this forward. We hope to have the proposed budget book delivered to the board of directors by November 18th. We're also that week going to be doing an all staff presentation and giving them detailed information about the budget. November 21st is a Monday this time, the week of Thanksgiving. We'll be meeting with the Finance Committee. The Park Advisory Committee meets a week later on Monday, the 28th at 4 o'clock. And then we have our practice of having an evening meeting for the introduction of the budget on December 6th at 6 p.m. And then the adoption of the budget will happen on December 20th at our regular scheduled 1 o'clock time. So that's our schedule. So as we mentioned before, this is information only, but it is a lot of information, and we would love to hear from the committee members with any questions or comments that you might have. So we can go ahead and drop the slide and see if there's any questions or any members of the public that wanted to comment.
Any questions or comments first from board members?
A lot to absorb, but there's a lot of planning going on, and that's good to know.
Yeah, yes. Director Eccles.
Great, thanks. Good. My internet came back just in time. I've been listening. I'm like, oops. Uh-oh. Wait, hold.
Oh, no, it's contagious.
Get back to that telephone.
It's one of those days.
Elizabeth, you're on mute.
Are you feeling
Okay,
better,
let's try this
Christina?
again.
There she is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes,
Can you hear?
yes, really well.
Am I alone? I'm hearing nothing.
You're frozen, I think, Elizabeth.
Oh,
I think
Okay,
Elizabeth is
all right.
frozen.
You're good now.
you know what?
There's a hobgoblin out there.
Yeah, I'm all right. Sorry,
Would you like to call in Director Eccles? And
yeah, I
then-
am called in. Can you
Mute.
mute me? I'm trying to mute the other.
There you go. Maybe you can call in and we can hear you over your phone and see if that helps. Let's see, Shannon, maybe you'll see her calling in.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, I think I'll just stick with the phone so I don't hold you up with all those echoes and things. But anyway, so first of all, thank you very much for the report. I really appreciate seeing this level of detail, and so I thank you for providing all of that. And I'm really happy to see, in addition to the having more FTE for the next year, having a designated person and a designated Office of Equity in the General Manager's office. I think that's really important to move that initiative forward. So, thanks so much for that. And I loved seeing all of the land projects as well, the capital funding projects. And I did have just one question. So, as you all well know, I'm very interested in, or we are, this is not just me, but other board members as well, is seeing a true regional park at Point Malate consistent with our long-term plans. And so, we're very grateful to have that $36 million that Nancy Skinner, Senator Skinner, was able to get into the state budget. And so my question is, if there were the opportunity to put that towards a park out there this year in 2023, how does that work when we get grants from the state? How does it then, move into the budget? Would that just happen through a board action, or how does that? If you could just let me know what the process would be. Should we have that opportunity, which I hope we will soon.
Sure, Director Eccles. Is what we've seen with amounts coming through the state budget is they typically are directed through a particular agency, and then the agency works with us to create what we call a grant agreement. And that is actually in process right now. And the board will take an action to authorize that entering into that grant agreement. That'll be the action that the board takes, and that will allow us to budget for those funds once the grant agreement is all finalized and signed off. So as you know, things take time, but they're definitely, they're in line to go through that process. And so we are not including that in this annual budget because it has its own pathway. And there may be an action that we bring to you before the end of this calendar year or very early next year, depending on how long it takes for the agency to process that grant type authorization. That's what you'll see.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Any other board member comments?
No.
I would, I guess we'll hash this out in December and everything, but I'm very happy to hear that we have 40 more positions, full-time equivalents. I am very, very happy that we are going towards geographical reorganization of park units. I think that makes total sense and will save us a lot in the long run and make us a more efficient agency. I'm troubled by the fact that, and maybe it's, I know that the caveat was, this is just highlights. We haven't got down to the ground details, but I bet I'm saddened by the fact that we're not going to have any OCFs this year, on-call firefighters. I think we dodged a bullet this year, but I don't think we will in the future. And I think we need to be prepared with firefighters. I'm disappointed that we don't have apprenticeships. I think that was a real goal of a number of board members. And I think it's an opportunity that would be missed for one more year if we don't have them this year. And I always like the fact that we're going to add new positions, new crew type things. Yet I do recall that last year or 2 years ago, probably we've budgeted a trails crew, which I think is incredibly necessary and incredibly needed. And yet it's still, we're going into a whole new year and we don't have a trails crew. That is a lament for me. And then, geez, what else? Another Contra Loma Swim Lagoon, $1 million, I think, was designated. And I'm really in favor of that. I think that's great. I think that's an essential service that we just kind of dropped off the radar of everybody. I don't know, it was $1 million or $1.2 million, whatever it was, it doesn't matter. But I'm wondering, Lisa, what does $1 million get you? We're going to get a bunch of papers that design something, or are we going to have a swimming facility available for swim season next year at Contra Loma? Because I'm personally going to want to run down there with a paint can and paint the darn bottom myself for a lot cheaper, by the way.
Yeah. So I'm going to start to answer that question and then I'm going to have Ren come on. So just as a reminder, it is a swim lagoon. Oh, and Steve's here too. So exciting. So it is, so there's a couple of things, it is regulated by the Contra Costa Health Department. They regulate it as a swim lagoon with you need to meet the criteria as if it was a swimming pool. So it has just sort of for context for all of us, it really is treated differently than the Don Castro Swim Lagoon, which is regulated by the Alameda Health County Department. So they are sort of, I just wanted to frame that sort of the requirements are very specific at the Contra Loma Swim Facility. And we are in negotiation. We put out an RFP. We actually did not get any responses. And so we're directly now negotiating a scope of services and contract with a firm. And the intent would be to get full set of construction documents that, to build it. It's a pretty complex facility. We have to remove because we have to remove the sand, there's some infrastructure changes that have to happen. So, ideally this gets us a little bit more than just the contracted services, but I can't speak to that. The cost estimate will be a deliverable out of this scope of work. Ren and Steve, do you want to share any more?
Sure, I'll jump in. Ren Bates, Acting Chief of Design and Construction. And to further what Lisa said, yes, we hope, Director Waspy, we hope that we will have enough money in that request for all of our design services, and then have then that, and the request has construction money as well. So we hope that that would be enough, but we don't know, as to Lisa's point, as we get into that. And so it's not just, again, the waterproofing. We're looking at some of the maintenance issues that have caused some of the waterproofing. So that will entail removing the sand, taking out the infrastructure, as Lisa said, and then looking at certain other issues that operations and maintenance staff have highlighted as we've revisited this, so that we're trying to make this facility whole, so that we're, instead of doing partial repair, we're looking at trying to make it complete in terms of the mechanicals and everything else in terms of that, and bringing it up to ADA based on us changing the entry of the pool. So it's a long answer. The short answer to your question is we hope that we can get it built. I will say it won't be ready probably by next swim season, because we will have to design and permit with the county, because we are making some substantial changes, but we hope to have it online for 2024. So in other words, we'll do our design and permitting through the beginning, middle of next year, and then go into construction and then be ready for 2024.
And I'll just, before Steve jumps in, I would just say we are in close coordination as a team, working with Pete DeQuincy, Lifeguard Services. So they are aware of our schedule on this. And so we're working with them to, much like this year, work to make sure that we're providing swim services in Eastern Contra Costa County.
And Steve Castillo, just acting AGM of operations. Just want to note also that, yes, we have been working very closely, with ASD operations and with public safety lifeguard services. So everybody's been on board with this. We're looking for, as Ren was stating, the long-term fix. The one that we had done previously was a short interim fix that was taken a look at. And when we were figuring out that, when certain things don't quite work out as planned, it's like, okay, let's not do the temporary fix. Let's do the one-time fix, keep it closed a little bit longer, and make sure that we have something that can be serving, the public long-term, so that we don't keep going through these cycles of opening, closing. And can't say enough about lifeguard services too, being flexible enough to, number one, have lifeguard services out there at other facilities in the eastern counties to still provide swim facilities, which are not, under EBRPD during this transition, and to be flexible at other facilities as well. So they've been fantastic to work with.
All right.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
This was very complicated to build this. I remember that. They went through all kinds of things. Are we just rebuilding something that's going to be a continuing issue? Would we be better off to say, stop and build a pool there? Anybody want to try an answer on that one? Just strikes me that's almost one of a kind, and you keep running into problems.
I'll take a stab at that, and my colleagues can jump in as they deem appropriate. It's a great point, Director Wieskamp. I think we've all shared that thought along those lines.
Sure.
And I believe as part of this, hiring consultants to help us evaluate this, I think part of our first will be looking at the initial schematic design or response to repairs, and bringing that back potentially to see what that cost would be. So as we hone in on that, to see if that's a value that the district wants to contribute or continue to use as a facility. So I think part of this contract is to make some evaluations and put numbers to that, so that we can sort of make that assessment moving down the road. So
It strikes me as one of the first things you should do is figure out, is it worthwhile to spend money on something that is going to continue to be a problem, when we could just say stop and promise and start work on building another pool there. It's going to be, I will look on as an outsider next time, but I think we have a lot of things that people want, and out there I know they want pool. It's hot. Living in Livermore, I understand that. But short-term solution where you're throwing money away that you know it's going to come back and bite you. I'm glad you're looking at it. I think it just makes sense.
All right. Well, thank you for your presentation. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak on the preliminary budget? for 2023. Kelly Abreu, go right ahead.
Thank you. Well, first off, I don't know, any of you reads the Livermore Independent newspaper headline over there on in August. East Bay Park District increases measured WW tax rate, and they said the tax rate went up from $5.80 per 100,000 of assessed value to up to excuse me, well, it's not up from, it's up from $2 up to $5.80. That's tripled, right? Tripled, the tax rate tripled on measured WW. And then they quote Deborah Spalding, EVRD Assistant Finance Officer. We need to know how much money we owe in the coming year, and we spread them out across the assessed value of all properties. So that's I'm getting questions from people over here asking how come you tripled the tax rate? And of course I have no idea. Then over here at we just went through a whole project management thing, right? Or budget thing, right? Your board approved 340 parking spaces in September of 2016. It's very well documented. You allocated $1.6 million. There is no budget oversight if that $1.6 million can kind of disappear. And then when it comes to project management, there is no project list. There's a little immediate project list because this projects are being deleted, magically swapped out. There's a deft sleight of hand. When another project, a parasitic project with just 82 spaces, just showed up. And then another project, yet another immaculate conception at Mission Peak. Mission Peak, imagine this. It's called Reroute Road at Mission Peak. Costs $150,000, just showed up on today's agenda. $150,000 project that I never heard of. And I am looking for this like one of those hawks at Mission Peak, the fancy hawks that look really beautiful. I've got eyesight just like them, looking through budget documents, looking for a reroute road for $150,000. Just boom. How can this stuff happen with no discussion and be a complete surprise to everybody? I'll give you another example of how the double standard of the district. Tasahara Finley Ranch Road, out there, 800 acres you want to build. Okay, great. And first thing you want to do, build gates, build staging areas. Great. At Mission Peak, we have something called Mill Creek Road. And what has the district done? Mr. Castile's people have gone out there and posted no entry signs on Mill Creek Road. So nobody can walk up the road, not drive, walk up the road and enter the park. So this kind of thing, we need to have a standard where people are encouraged to visit our parks, and we don't put up no entry signs at Mission Peak, and we keep track of these projects. And whatever happened to 340 parking spaces? Let's not lose sight of that. 340 parking spaces, not 82, 340. Where is that? It's been 6 years. There is no project management. There is no budget oversight. These things are wild and lawless. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to diverge from what we normally do and thank the speakers. I've heard Deb Spalding explain this, our tax rate and why we do things, and we have the ability to go to a certain amount. And I know you do it in about 2 or 3 sentences, and it's not complicated. Deb, would you mind
Sure.
about how that works?
Yeah. So Deborah Spalding, Assistant Finance Officer. So we have a debt service schedule, and that is the amount that we owe for our measured WW bonds that we have issued already. So each year we get from the 2 counties the assessed value for all the property in the 2 counties, and we take our amount that we owe for debt service and we spread that out across the assessed value, and that comes out with our rate that we have to collect from different parcels. So we promised voters we would keep that rate at less than $10 per $100 of assessed valuation and $100,000 of assessed valuation, and we have done that. So it's $5 and I think 58 cents, so much less than the $10 that was promised to voters. I hope that answers it.
And I'll just add that the reason why it did increase is because we issued new bonds. So we issued new bonds and the principal payments and the interest payments grew from us paying down a couple of old tranches of bonds and now issuing new ones. So sometimes there's crossover as we're making payments on several different issues. And that was the reason why it went up. It had gone down very far, like you said, to around $2 to $3. And now it's back up a little bit.
Great. Thank you both. Meadow, welcome.
Good afternoon, members of the Board Finance Committee and staff. I'm Meadow Darcy from AFSCME Local 2428. I was wondering if, since it's on the agenda here, if there could be a little bit better explanation of the workforce development and support item with the Office of Equity within the General Manager's office. I'd love to hear more about that. I'm excited if we are able to have this particular office devoted to that, but I don't have any other information. So I'm wondering if someone can speak on that. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I don't have a representative from the General Manager's office here, but as we've talked about, this is a very high priority for the General Manager to really focus on this initiative. So creating a Office of Equity is, I think, the first step to getting a lot of that work done. I think we can get more details for the committee members at our next meeting.
Thank you. So if there are no further comments in Meadow, you know how it works. We'll continue to do this through December, what was it, 20th. So we'll continue to discuss this and we'll have more information. And this is a highlight at this point. So if there's no further discussion on that, this was an informational item. Thank you very much, Christina and staff, for the presentation. We'll move right along to the next item, which is job order contracting quarterly report.
Good afternoon, Finance Committee members. I'm Ren Bates, Acting Chief of Design and Construction. Please bear with me while I share my presentation. Hopefully you all can see that. So I'm here as to provide our quarterly update on job order contracting. So I'll give an update on our current contracts. As part of that, I'll kind of go over a brief overview of the job order contracting program and the participants in that. And then I'll briefly touch on our next round of bidding. So as a reminder, our job order contracting is a procurement method for repair, renovation, refurbishment, and remodeling work. There are 3 groups that make this program work and function. The first being the Park District. Park District has many projects that fit into this repair, renovation, refurbishment, and remodeling category. And so job order contracting is a method by which we can help to deliver those projects on a larger scale basis. The entities that utilize job order contracting are Finance and Management Services, MAST, Operations, and Design and Construction being the most heavy users of the program. The second group that helps us function in this way is the Gordian Group. They are the consultants that have been under contract based on an RFP process. The Gordian Group provides the background of having owned RS Means, which is a company, nationwide company that does a lot of cost estimating services for the construction industry. And so having them as part of their group, they can provide us with the construction task catalog. And again, as a reminder, this is a catalog of fixed costs that include local labor and material costs. And it's produced right before we go out to bid, such that the bids for our fixed costs in that catalog are set for the entirety of our contract. The other thing that the Gordian Group provides is they help us with our outreach for contractors that do this when we enter into bids. And then they also provide preliminary review of pricing proposals. The last group are our contractors, and they are awarded contracts by the board based on their competitively bid adjustment factors of the construction task catalog. So they'll come in and they'll bid basically their adjustment factor covers their overhead and costs for the costs that are provided in the construction task catalog, is which what they bid on. This is our fourth round that I'm giving you an update on of job order contracting contracts. And we have executed 8 contracts that we're working with now. We have 3 A licenses. Construction licenses are usually determined by a letter and or a number. And so we have 3 general A licenses, which is general engineering. So they do infrastructure, road work, things of that nature. We have 3 B licenses, which are building licenses, and they do a lot of roofing, mechanical, remodeling of structures. And then we have 2 general A paving. So we've specifically, instead of having them do some of the engineering and infrastructure, they are specific to do paving only. So with that, I will move on to our job order, updating on our current contracts. The following 3 slides have been provided in the staff report, so that these are in the agenda. And but this shows the amount of work that we've completed in the last year. Oh, I guess I should amend that by saying that these contracts are an annual contract, and so they last for 1 year from our first notice to proceed. So these contracts were awarded in May of 2021. It takes a little while to execute them and get everybody on board, so that doesn't take away from their time. So we issue the annual contract based on their first notice to proceed after we've initiated a price proposal from the contractor, staff's reviewed it, and then approved based on the numbers and quantities being equal to what or close to our engineer's estimate for the project. So you can see we've done quite a bit of work here. And again, there are several entities within the district that utilize this. So we've completed 17 projects at this point, totaling over $4 million of work. The Gordian cost is 5% of that, and that's part of what the Gordian Group gets. So they get paid based on 5% of the final construction cost. And we found that to be a value that is worth it. I'd also like to note that these costs come from project funds. So in other words, the district isn't encumbering any funds when we enter into these projects. The project has to have funding in its project budget to then proceed with job order contracting as a procurement method. It is just a procurement method. So once we give it to NTP, Park District staff are fully responsible for managing it. The Gordian Group does not provide any sort of project management services in that regard. Here are our 8 projects that are currently in construction. These total about another $2.1 million. And lastly, you can see as I push through these slides that we have a lot that are complete, less in construction, and a fewer number in review. This highlights that we are actually moving towards the end of our current round of contracts. So these are a few that are still open or being priced. Now I'll share some images. This image has actually been shown before at this meeting, but I like to show this one because it highlights some of the benefits of job order contracting, such that the work you can see here is there's some nighttime work. What the job order contracting provides us the option with is they have a regular hour adjustment factor and an after hours adjustment factor based on the fact that we as a district have projects that are in natural environments and tidally influenced. This allows us to work with a contractor to set up a schedule that is appropriate to do the work in the environment that's required. And so I just like to show this because it highlights that as one of the benefits. Another project, we were just recently out at Shadow Cliffs for a board tour, and I don't know if anyone took Kevin up on his offer to go look at this building. This is the mobile visitor center garage, and part of job was to install these fire sprinklers to make sure that we're up to code and safe for our facility. Here's another project that was completed, the Dry Creek rock wall. You can see some of it has lost some of its integrity over the years, and so we utilized Jock to complete this rock wall work and try to make it as historically accurate or to the original intent as possible. Finally, we'll finish with the Contra Costa Canal Trail repaving project as images. That it concludes my presentation. I'll pull this down. I would like to note, based on the fact that we are approaching the end of this round, we anticipate going out to bid for the next round of projects really very soon, and we will look to come to the board in the first part of next year to award those contracts. And again, we'll be looking to award 3 general A, 3B, and 2 paving, excuse me. With that, I'll field any questions.
Great, thanks, Ren. Director Eccles?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Oh, okay, you're dialing. Any other board members?
I think it's a great program. It seems to be working, in your opinion, quite well.
I would say yes. In my opinion, we've been able to deliver a good amount of work that without this procurement method would take us much longer to get administratively through. And it provides our project manager with a way to do sufficient amount of work. I think it's working very
It
well.
seems to be efficient, and as many things as we have going on, I think that's marvelous. So good job.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, okay. So Ren, you said this is the 4th round?
Yeah, we're currently in our 4th round.
Okay, so we like it, or you like it, and we like it. What do the contractors think about it? Do you get the same group of contractors bidding this, or are they saying this isn't worth it, or is it a gold mine, or what is it?
That's a great question, Director Waspy. And in our experience, we've found it, I wouldn't say runs the gamut, but we've learned throughout our rounds of bidding this that some contractors are really great and well suited, and they've come back and they've bid the work. Sometimes they aren't always the lowest bidder, and that's because we've had other entities show up that have not been the best. And so, in other words, they are not responsive, or they come to the district and say, oh, well, we don't really have the capacity to do this right now. So it's a mixed bag. I think overall we've done that, and as a method to sort of mitigate that that's why we go out for multiple bids on this, is because we're not encumbering money, and it allows us the option to then work with the contractors that work with us, and the other ones that don't add a lot of value to the district in delivering projects, that then we can not continue to work with them. So that's, I guess, a good point of that is that when we enter into these contracts by law, we are required to provide at a minimum $50,000 of work and up to a maximum of what our contract is. So once we've done that and we find out who those contractors are, we proceed as needed with their responsiveness. Hope that answers your question.
Sure it does. And Lisa, do you want to add something?
Yes, thank you. Just one other addition. Ren mentioned, the Gordian Group really functions as our procurement kind of is that function. And so as part of this round, we have a new regional account manager. Earlier this spring, I don't know if you recall, we had Zeb give a presentation. Zeb right afterwards got a promotion, and so we have a new so we miss him, but we're happy for him. But our new account manager, as part of this new round, has been very active in working with the staff to identify different ways to talk with different contractors. So like working with staff to find out contractors who may not be jock contractors, but that we've worked with, that we know do like doing work for the district. And so really trying to improve our outreach from a procurement perspective. So we just, some larger agencies really have that ability to put like fairs on about upcoming work, and we just really don't have that. So this is really some support that we've seen from the Gordian Group to help us even get more contractors to find out more about the work.
Great. So as a follow-up, that's interesting. So if the staff is enjoying the benefits of jock contracting, and we seem to, as Lisa, you just said, that our Gordian Group is helping us procure contractors and good ones that are going to work out for us. And based on our past item here about project budgets, and 1.5 million seems like we could double that easily. Is there any thought to increasing that, or are there any restrictions to increasing that?
Yeah, I'm going to let Ren talk about that. We did talk with the general manager about this exact issue. And so she's given us some guidance for the next round. I did want to just clarify that the Gordian Group does outreach for us. These contractors are low bid, right? So it's a competitively bid process. So they don't secure the contractors. They just do outreach to get them to bid.
Names.
Ren?
Sure. That's a great question, Director Waspy. And we started at these contracts at $1 million. So and we've increased it to 1.5 after the next couple, but in the next round, we're looking to increase them to 2 million. So we're taking steps as we go. This is our goal. So yes, the next round of contracts will increase the maximum contract from 1.5 to 2. That's where we're at. We'll look to doubling it eventually from our current round, but I think this is where we want to take it a step at a time.
Just to editorialize, if I may, because it's still a little early. I mean, you know, I won't speak for my other fellow board members, but we have all mentioned quite a bit in the past that we want to get parks open. We want to do things. We want to do stuff. And if this makes it easier, I personally am more than willing to expand this, because I think it does work, and we want to do stuff. And if this makes it easier, I'd be all in favor of it. Jim, go ahead.
Thank you, Director Waspy. Just a reminder that maybe this is obvious, but this program, the JOC program, and the work, the expansion that we've done in the major maintenance program in Mass, are a direct response to the board's request to expedite work, this project work, especially around infrastructure maintenance. So this is a success story. I know there's been comments that this is displacing, staff in the district, but we've actually added staff to in this effort. And we're expediting that work, and it's working, and we're moving things forward. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. But this is something that somehow gets lost in the past. But this was a multi-year effort to really expedite getting this work done. So this is a real success story.
Great.
Great. Thank you. If there are no further board comments or staff additions, let's go to members of the public. Kelly.
Thank you. I'd like to point you to one of these earlier slides. It's titled Job Order Contracting Quarterly Report, item number 6 at Del Val. If we're getting these projects done faster, as Mr. O'Connor just told us, there's a restroom replacement site work going on there for $360,000. Just a few notes on this slide, by the way. There's no need to go down to every dollar, to every last dollar. You can round off. And then on the Gordian Group cost, I did the calculation on every single one of those. It looks like about 5%. So maybe just tell us it's 5%. And don't list out the cost, because it's kind of, you're drowning us with numbers here. But going on to this restroom replacement, Mr. O'Connor told the newspaper 7 years ago that these restrooms at Mission Peak would be temporary, and they would be, I guess that means they're those little porta potties, they'd be replaced. Mr. O'Connor, please, a lot of people at Mission Peak would be begging you right now after 7 years. Do you think it's time that you can use this wonderful new method to get out there and do the work that you promised 7 years ago? I really think that this district should be hanging its head in shame about waiting 7 years to replace those restrooms that were temporary. And if you want the newspaper story quoting Mr. O'Connor, we have that. It's out there. So we're still waiting. And other restrooms seem to be getting replaced quickly and efficiently in Livermore on the job order contracting. Thank you.
Thank you. Meadow.
Good afternoon. Meadow Darcy from AFSCME Local 2428. I just wanted to come on again. I'm hoping I can get an answer. I've been asking at every board finance meeting for an update on the paving analysis report. It's been almost 2 years since I had asked if the board or if staff ever take a macro look at the work that's going on JOC and see if there's repetitive work that's going on every year. Each time to look and see if there's some analysis of whether internal staff would be better used for those projects, or hiring additional staff, line staff, not necessarily management staff or contracting staff. And I haven't heard an answer. I put in an info request. I really haven't gotten anything. Sometimes a board member will let me know, but it's never getting an answer at this meeting, and I'm never getting any response from staff. So I would like to know what the status is of that. When I did bring it up, there was told that there was a paving analysis report done, but I haven't been able to get a copy of it. And then I was told it was going to be done in the summer. And then, so I just would like to know an update, and I'm hoping I can get that answer today, because I keep bringing it up and I don't ever get a response. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a paving analysis report?
Director Waspy, Jim O'Connor, Deputy General Manager. I have the draft report. I received it last week, reviewing it, and I will be sharing it with the General Manager. And then eventually we're going to share it. I'm not sure which board committee we'll share it out with, but anyway, I do have that draft report, and I'm looking at it.
Great, thank you very much. Any more public comment? Hearing none. Thank you, Ren and Lisa, for that great report and the great results of JOC contracting. Our next item then is public comment. Anybody else want to take a shot at it again?
Yeah.
Oh, pardon me, Kelly.
Yeah. Unless somebody else is first, but
No, go right ahead.
when it comes to property taxes, notice that, like everybody to keep in mind, remember that over 80% of your money comes from property taxes. Also, remember, especially since we have a good attendance today with the accountants, they actually went to business school and stuff, so they know what the Federal Reserve is, and they know what interest rates are, and they know what a recession is, and they kind of know that the property taxes on your budget, it's a lagging indicator. So we're looking very much in the rearview mirror. And if a recession were to show up, and by the way, a survey of 400 city finance managers across America said that they expect their average property taxes to be going down about 4% this year. But whatever, it doesn't matter for this district, because the property taxes are pretty much locked in for the next year or two. But eventually, if property taxes don't keep it going up strongly as you have put into your forecasts, and if they instead don't do that, if they don't go up strongly, then you're going to have a little nasty surprise. But it's not going to happen this year, and we can all proceed merrily with our free spending ways. But it will catch up to us. But it's after this election cycle, right? So it really doesn't matter. Thanks.
Thank you for that jab, Kelly. And I want you to know there's an election cycle every 2 years in the Park District. But anyway, thank you for that comment. Anybody else? Hearing none. What about committee member comments?
I apologize for all the problems you've had in making this presentation to us, but it was very important, and y'all were valiant in your efforts. And Elizabeth joined in for part of it too. So nothing's perfect, but we got through and we got the information we needed. So thank you very much.
Elizabeth? Whoops, you're on mute.
Okay. Yes, I agree with Ann. The technology is not perfect, but we get it done one way or another, and really appreciate everyone's efforts and the reports. And yeah, I am glad to hear that there is a draft of the update on paving analysis. And, if it's appropriate to bring it for this committee, we'd definitely like to see it. And I'm sure it'll be available in some form eventually. So thank you. Thanks so much for all of your work.
Great. And I will bite my tongue on comments about Zoom meetings for 3 or 4 years or when it'll ever end, but I will bite my tongue. And thank you all for a great meeting. If there's nothing further from anyone, thanks. We're adjourned. Great
Okay.
meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, directors.
Bye-bye.
Thank you
Well-
everyone for being here today. Appreciate your time. Goodbye.